Absent.
Next, that would be the approval of minutes. Is there a motion on the floor for the approval of minutes? Member Blair and Member McKeon. Any comments, corrections? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Mhm. 17 ayes. Next is, I'm sorry.
For those that are having to stand, I know we'll get through some proclamations here, and if I think that might weed the room out a little bit, but if not, and you need accommodations, please let us know, and we'll make sure for accommodations. So that would get us to proclamations and presentations. First proclamation congratulating River Kitty Cafe on 2 years of business and their successful partnership with PCAPS. Holly, would you please come up? And we'll also be joined by Alex Menke, Shelter Services Supervisor, and Amanda Anderson, who is Medical Services, and Becky. Welcome, team.
Right. The River Kitty Cafe is celebrating 2 years of operations this month as Peoria's first full-time cat cafe, serving up a unique blend of coffee, baked goods, and quality time with felines. River Kitty Cafe is a woman-owned business founded and currently operated by Holly Walker at 3226 North University Street. All cats living at River Kitty Cafe are available for adoption through an exclusive partnership with PCAPS, our Peoria County Animal Protection Services. More than 460 cats have been adopted by their forever family since River Kitty Cafe opened in March 2024, which is incredible. All cats living at River Kitty Cafe are current on all vaccines, spayed, neutered, and microchipped. In addition to the cat lounge, River Kitty Cafe also offers kitten yoga and unique birthday party experiences with cats. River Kitty Cafe hosts an annual Neuter Your Ex promotion, which raised $2,650 in donations for PCAPS in 2025. River Kitty Cafe has raised money to help with medical expenses for PCAPS cats in their care, including arthritis treatment, blood work, dental work, and River Kitty Cafe supports other local businesses and entrepreneurs, including Intuition Coffee, La Bakery, Voila Macaroons, and local artists. Now, therefore, I, James C. Dillon, Chairperson of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby congratulate River Kitty Cafe on 2 years of business and their successful partnership with PCAPS. I will say I've never been there because I'm allergic, but I've heard great things from many, many family members, and we are very thankful from PCAPS for what you guys do. So, would you like to say anything?
Hi, my name is Holly Walker, owner of River Kitty Cafe. I want to thank the board for this recognition tonight. When I first started this cafe 2 years ago, there was a lot of things I was not prepared for, and even after 2 years, things I'm still learning as I go along. But one of the biggest blessings has been just the community support that has come around this cafe. We're at 469 adoptions now in 2 years, and when I looked up that number last night, I just had to sit back and take a breath. That's almost 500 cats, 500 cats. It just threw me for a loop. So Becky has made this one of the best communication and partnerships I've ever had with a government organization in my entire life. So that has been wonderful. She's put the right people in place. If you have not been over there to meet the staff, they are just the most compassionate, the most loving, and they are in the trenches day after day, and they keep showing up for these animals that no one else is speaking for. So Amanda, she has been like my right-hand person doing this, but it's even more than that. My staff, I have a really dedicated team of volunteers that come in and they do the dirty work, the scooping litter boxes, cleaning up the messes, things no one else wants to do. They show up every single day for these cats, and the community, like I said, is just, they just keep pouring in, and I'm just in awe of how it's taken off. So thank you. Thank you.
Next is a proclamation congratulating DLD VIP on their 10-year anniversary, which I have never seen somebody so excited to former Mayor Phelan and Mayor Matt Winnington to attend in his attendance too. So, Danny, you want to bring the crew in? He is just bring them on out. Public service announcement. Danny has new coat today too, Danny?
New coat.
And we'll be signing. He will be signing autographs afterwards if anybody is wanting.
I have not If any of you guys want to come up front with us, you're welcome, or you can pile in behind the front. Don't be scared to disrupt things. You want them to all come up with us. No, pretty much. We'll count. Damn, pile them in there. This up. All right, we've been talking about how to get attendance up here at the county board, and I'm starting to think we need to hire Dan for that. One thing I brought with me this evening is actually a DLD hat. Dan has a pretty cool business that I'm going to tell you a little bit about here in just a moment in this proclamation. But something that as I was getting ready for the meeting tonight, I was reminded of a story I haven't shared with Dan. And we were traveling to Mexico, and I was actually in Dallas Fort Worth Airport, of all places, and somebody called out this hat. And they knew about Dan and they knew about the business, and they were not from the Peoria area. And so at that point in time, I was like, he's grown. I mean, he has really grown into a business that is just not impacting Peoria County, but all across the world. And I just think that's so cool. So I'm really happy to be able to honor Dan tonight, his family, and all his staff. And with that said, I will read the proclamation. Whereas DLD VIP was founded in 2015 and has proudly served customers for 10 years, and whereas DLD VIP is owned by Dan Dolan, whose leadership, vision, and spirit have guided the community's growth and success since its founding, and whereas DLD VIP operates by appointment only in order to provide customers with a personalized one-on-one experience that emphasizes individual attention, privacy, and thoughtful service. And whereas DLD VIP is recognized for offering a broad range of products, including everyday carry items, knives, firearms, and related accessories, serving both new and experienced customers. Whereas DLD VIP is known for hosting educational webinars that provide firearm owners with information on safe ownership, product knowledge, and emerging brands within the industry. And whereas during its operations, DLD VIP has navigated a complex and ever-changing legal and regulatory environment, including recent updates to Illinois that have presented ongoing challenges for firearm retailers. And whereas in response, DLD VIP has demonstrated a consistent commitment to compliance with all applicable federal, state, and local laws and procedures, working diligently to stay informed and uphold responsible business practices. And whereas, while rooted in Peoria Heights, DLD VIP has expanded its reach to serve customers across the United States, positively representing Peoria County on a national level. And whereas the success and longevity of DLD VIP reflect the dedication of its ownership and staff, as well as the trust and support of customers nationwide. And whereas a 10-year anniversary marks a significant milestone worthy of recognition and celebration within the Peoria Heights community. Now, therefore, I, James C. Dillon, Chairperson of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the County Board, do hereby congratulate DLD VIP on their 10-year anniversary. So I told Dan in the hallway he could introduce anybody he brought with him, but I actually don't think we have time for that. So I'm going to ask Dan to introduce his closest family members and friends and any staff that's here with him and tell us a little bit about his business and how he got to his 10-year anniversary.
I'd like to thank the Peoria County Board for this recognition. I need to lower this a little bit. Yeah. All right. Talking to a mic all day, so no, I would like to thank Peoria County Board for this recognition. It truly means a lot, and I want to thank everyone here tonight, and to all the supporters who have been part of this journey over the last 10 years. It honestly feels like a blink. 10 years ago, when we started this company, I never expected I'd eventually have to leave my career to focus on a full-time. And I definitely didn't expect it would grow into a national brand. I want to thank my family and the incredible team that has been part of this along the way, and every customer and supporter, both here locally and across the county or the country. You're the reason we're still here today. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for the support, and I'm looking forward to the next 10 years. And these really are my biggest supporters. Jaden wasn't able to get here until right now because she is a firefighter, and she was at training protecting the city and the county. This is my son, Carson. And during COVID, when we had to pull him away from school because all the schools were shutting down, he stepped in and was shipping, and he was helping and just kicked butt and learned how to do a little work. And now this one here, this is our current shipping department, and she is amazing. She's also my wife. And these two here, this is Gabe and Lauren. They actually build a lot of boxes for us and help keep things moving along and keep us streamlined when they're off school or whatever it is. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for every single person here that has helped me to get the word out. Everybody has done something, whether it was to motivate me or light a fire under my butt to, if I was getting off track. I could seriously go around this room right now and tell a story about every single person here and why I thought it was appropriate to have you here and why tonight wouldn't feel the same without you guys being here. Man, it's a lot different than the garage days. So, no, that's really all I got. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys in another 10 years.
Next, tough act to follow. Love the enthusiasm. But next would be a proclamation congratulating Graffelman Farm Rescue on 10 years of fostering, rescuing, and caring for animals. Member Blair?
So today we have Melinda Graffelman, founder of Graffelman Farms. We've got Heidi Camp, Lauren Gobey, Megan Reed, one of the other co-founders, and Annalie. 10 years ago, I was looking for a dog as a sibling to my PCAPS dog. And Graffelman Farms had this wonderful 3-legged Great Pyrenees that I really wanted. And I wrote out my application and sent it in. And a few days later, Melinda told me, no, we gave it to somebody else. So they did say I could have this 9-month-old yellow lab that didn't have a tail and had already lived in 4 homes. And I still have him to this day. I then started fostering for them about 6 months later. And I just looked up the numbers. In 10 years, I have fostered 164 animals, cats and dogs. Many of the people in this room here have done more than that. Whereas Graffelman Farms is celebrating 10 years as a foster-based animal rescue on April 1st, and Graffelman Farms was founded in Hannah City in 2016 by mother-daughter duo Melinda Graffelman and Megan Reed out of their home, and is a nonprofit organization primarily serving Peoria, Tazewell, and surrounding counties. And all animals taken in at Graffelman Farms receive personalized care in foster homes and avoid the stress of being locked up in a cage at a shelter. And Graffelman Farms is a completely volunteer-run organization with more than 40 foster families opening up their homes to animals in need. And Graffelman Farms is entirely funded by donations and adoption fees. And Graffelman Farms also runs a community cat program, providing low-cost spays and neuters to cat owners, as well as a trap, neuter, vaccination, and return program for feral cat colonies, which helps greatly reduce the population of unwanted cats. And in 2025, Graffelman Farms adopted out approximately 325 dogs and 350 cats, provided low-cost spays and neuters to 190 dogs and cats, and trapped, neutered, vaccinated, and returned nearly 300 feral cats. And Graffelman Farms operates by the motto, home the unwanted, heal the neglected, give hope to the mistreated. Now, therefore, I, James C. Dillon, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the Peoria County Board, do hereby congratulate Graffelman Farms Rescues on 10 years of fostering, rescuing, and caring for animals.
Thank you. Thank you, Eden. Thank you to the county board for this honor. Receiving this proclamation means a great deal to Graffelman Farms Rescue. First off, I want to thank my family for standing with me as I started this adventure 10 years ago. Thanks to my board members and my foster parents. Without them, there would be no Graffelman Farms. They're the ones that put in the time and the work to get animals into our rescue safely and into their forever homes. Thanks to all the volunteers and supporters. Again, without them, we wouldn't be here. The recognition does highlight our commitment to home the unwanted, heal the neglected, and give hope to the mistreated. And we hope to continue helping more animals in need. And we're always looking for more foster homes. Give it a try. You might like it. Thank you again.
Next, a proclamation recognizing Dr. Sheila Quirk Bailey for her leadership of ICC, or known as Dr. QB. Please come up. So, Sheila retired at the end of the year, and she is still actively committed. So, wanted to get her here. But after a career like hers, I wish we could give her more than a proclamation for what she's done for this community. It's a job well done, and I know this is a proclamation, but it's a gratitude. Not many people are invaluable for what they've done, or when you say that person, you can always replace. What she did for the community, she is unbelievable for the amount of passion that she put in it, for the workforce development, trying to recruit. Anybody that's ever been in a meeting talking about credentials, knowing how important they are. And the best thing is, she is staying here, and she is actively committed. She has family across the country, but she is committed to continuing to make Peoria a better place. And for that, I will forever be thankful. And I know this isn't, but give you a hug. You've made a good mark. I've tried to model your leadership, and the way you've conducted yourself from everything is good life lessons for, I think, everybody to take from here. So, whereas Dr. Sheila Quirk Bailey retired as the 5th president of Illinois Central College at the end of 2025, and whereas Dr. Quirk Bailey holds a doctorate in management and community college policy and administration from the University of Maryland, a master's degree in communications from Northern Illinois University, and a Bachelor of Science degree in speech communication from Bradley University. Whereas Dr. Quirk Bailey joined Illinois Central College in July 2016 as a leader in expanding college and workforce readiness through collaboration with businesses and high schools, leadership of the statewide workforce empowerment initiative, and helping adults obtain credentials to fill regional workforce gaps, including through the development of the Workforce Sustainability Center. And whereas during her tenure, Dr. QB also partnered with the Bradley University and Eureka College to secure a $15 million grant from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to train 1,000 credentialed IT employees in the region. Whereas she has served on many committees and boards, including but not limited to the Peoria CEO Council, St. Francis Community Advisory Board, Greater Peoria Economic Development Council Board of Directors, Distillery Labs Board of Directors, Community College Alliance for Agriculture Advancement Board of Directors, and the co-chair of the Regional Workforce Alliance. Now, therefore, I, James C. Dillon, chairperson of the Peoria County Board, on behalf of the Peoria County Board, hereby recognize Dr. Sheila Quirk Bailey for her leadership of Illinois Central College and of regional and state workforce development initiatives and programs.
Well, thank you, and thank you to the county and this board. You've also been amazing partners. You don't bring in $15 million and $22 million grants because you write them yourselves. You bring them in because you create an ecosystem, and we all row in the same direction, and we bring some amazing outcomes to this community. the Workforce Empowerment Initiative. We just had a study that NIU did against our outcomes, and we have lifted 1,800 people out of poverty in the last 5 years in Peoria County, with the average person earning $33,000 a year more after they completed the program when they started the program. And that's because that's civil service agencies, that's multiple universities, that's, all of us making that happen. And I'd also like to thank this board on continuing to work with the Greater Peoria Leadership Council and for the $100,000 the county made available in a revolving loan fund. We are focusing on 3 blocks in downtown Peoria to attract businesses, to grow businesses, and bring back some vitality to downtown, like has happened in the warehouse district. And again, that only happens when we work together. It was the honor of a lifetime to serve this community and work at Illinois Central College. So thank you for all you do, and you will continue to do, and to continue to raise up the people and the businesses in Peoria County. So thank you.
So we asked Discover Peoria to come to the next executive committee, and knowing that we would have a full agenda tonight. So citizens' remarks. That brings us to 3. First one is Travis Wheat. Each public speaker will have 5 minutes. So when you hear the ding, that's time. So perfect.
Is there anything that needs to happen up here? You need to state name, address, social security number, anything?
Nope.
All right, well, I will. I'm Travis Wheat. I am a resident of Peoria County. Even though I'm not in your district, you are all my representatives because we're all citizens of the same place. I live in Laura, Illinois, and I'm a township board member out there in Millbrook, one of the participating, by proximity, in the Four Creeks Wind Farm. I know you guys are sick of hearing about it, and I'm not too excited to be talking about it myself. I'd like to be left alone, but that just can't seem to happen. Let you know a little bit about me. I'm the marketing director for a machinery company out here. I'm a managing partner of a roofing and construction company in Dallas, managing partner of a septic company up here, managing partner of a rodeo company in Athens, Texas, and we have a little bitty working ranch and a horse rescue that we are, that we are starting out in our neck of the woods. I don't think I left anything out. I run a big rodeo in Dallas, there's that one, but I'm choosing to hang my hat in Illinois. I like it here. I like the people. I like the scenery. I like the seasons. Believe it or not, I do indeed like the cold. I'm built for it. The reason I tell you all of that is to just give you a little bit of info into who I am. My little piece of heaven is on Lawrence Road. And right now, there is no obstructions. My horses that are prey animals that we rescue from kill pens across the United States, and we rehome them, or we rehab them, re-nurture them, and we rehome them with no sale contracts. So that if they ever find a way somewhere else, they make their way back to us. You can't have those around windmills because they're prey animals, and the shadow and the flicker sends them into oblivion. So by that alone, I'm probably going to be out, and I'd hate to do that. But again, I want to hone in on, I'm really frustrated still having to be talking about this as you are. I don't want to. This is the 250th year of the United States. We saw that up there. And we're pretending like we're a constitutional republic, but in reality, through this project, what it's shown us is we're more of a vassal state, that some of us don't have the same weight in our voices that others do. There's 160 landowners, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, Carson, I'm not sure, that are participating in this wind farm, and there is thousands of people in that area that are against it. Now, arguably, they're not all your district constituents, but they are your constituents. And what we say and where we live, and what we say about where we live does matter. We don't live in town because we like the quality of life out in the country, and that does matter. And that's why this is worth fighting for. And that's why everybody over here is still fighting about it, because we don't want it to happen. We've not been receiving money like the participating landowners, some of whose families are sitting on the board. And I'd invite you to recuse yourself from voting. You need to. It's the right thing to do. I signed that economic interest statement just like you did. It's worth fighting for a multitude of reasons, and I'm sure other people will talk about it. And the reasons are property value decrease, health, quality of life, list goes on. There's no decrease in actual energy costs. And the only science that's published that proves otherwise has been funded by the energy companies themselves. That's called nicotine science. Feel free to look that up if you want to. 70s and 80s. Doctors still told us that it was okay to smoke when you were pregnant. Obviously, we know that's not to be true. So if you dig a little deeper, you'll find all the other stuff. For those reasons, the entire project has to be sandbagged, meaning it has to be built almost entirely before it lands at your feet. Because if it was done out in the open at the beginning, operating like we should as a constitutional republic, where you have to ask for permission before you start this stuff, something like this should have been voted on before it even got started. But if it did, it would never happen. They would never happen for a multitude of reasons, the least of which the ones I listed prior. The conversation about the individual property rights, well, it's in my within my rights to discharge firearms 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be an absolute lunatic, as long as the bullet doesn't leave my property. But that's not very neighborly, is it? It's just not very neighborly. But it will decrease the surrounding property values, because when they go to sell their house, they have to explain why there's a raving lunatic that fires guns 24/7. So there's an obvious decrease in property value. The RUA that's being voted on tonight needs to be understood that each wind turbine takes about 2,000 heavily loaded trips with trucks per wind turbine. It's really green. Our roads aren't built for that. My house sits 50 feet off the road, terrible place for a house, and it shakes when grain trucks drive by. So when you have 2,000 of those trucks, that's going to damage the foundation. Who's going to pay for that? Union boys? Should I ask you for the money for that? Board members, wind farm, you guys going to pay for that? It might be in the RUA, may, who knows? But it's not necessarily.
Travis,
yes,
it's time.
That's time?
It's time.
Okay. To summarize, we do care. There's a reason. Tired of being up here talking just like you're tired of listening to us. So.
Next, Tracy Fox.
Hi, my name is Tracy Fox. I live out in rural northeast Peoria County in Brian L. Sasser's district. I'm here tonight because I care about the environment, and I've been associated with Central Illinois Healthy Community Alliance, the group that fought for the coal plant closure, as well as for wind and solar to help Illinois make a clean transition. When I think about this project, I think that we need to spend more time thinking about the public benefits rather than private inconveniences. Wind is a public benefit from a climate perspective, and that should weigh heavily on us today as the Mideast burns and the price of oil begins to skyrocket, and it underscores the need for us to make a transition. In addition to that immediate violence, we can think about the slow violence that coal did to Peoria County over many, many years, where people on the south side of Peoria were exposed to asthma, they were exposed to COPD, they had premature deaths at an elevated rate, and we didn't have a mechanism in place to do anything. Inherent in the burning of any fossil fuel is that pollution load, and the fact that somebody, the general public, is going to be impacted. That statistic always comes home to rest. Wind energy also helps us isolate our region from the fluctuations in the energy market. This is something that would be homegrown. We won't need long distance transmission lines to tap into it, and it can help secure a more stable energy supply for citizens in Peoria County. Wind energies are a public benefit for ensuring that rural communities see prosperity. It provides badly needed funds, you know this, for schools, for fire departments, and for other kinds of infrastructures for roads. And it also impacts not just government budgets, but family budgets, both in terms of potential property tax relief or in terms of home values. A peer-reviewed study that I just looked at in the December 2025 Journal of Energy Research and Social Science found that the impact of school funding increases from wind farms, when you look at it school district wide, actually increases the value of homes in that school district because schools are better resourced. There's better paid teachers. There's more funding for extracurricular programs. And that 3% was sustained, above normal home appreciation due to inflation. Wind projects are also a public benefit because they diversify farm income. Again, we think about current events where the tightening of the Strait of Hormuz is going to cut off fertilizer supplies for our farmers. This diversifies their income stream and gives us another way to help keep family farms in family hands. When they're beholden to just a single interest, that becomes more and more difficult in today's economic environment. And lastly, they're a public benefit because they create high-paying union jobs that happen right here. This isn't something being built out west and the electricity shipped in. This isn't something being built elsewhere. This is here in Peoria County. Those are jobs. Those are people that are going to have extra money in their pockets to spend here. There's not much to say specific to the road issue. The county agreement seems really comprehensive. It has a lot of overlapping mechanisms to make sure taxpayers don't get socked with unpaid bills if this thing goes south. And I also appreciate the bans on roadside parking and on tents and RVs on sites. I know that can be a worry for people that live near any kind of industrial development. Please approve this beneficial resource or this beneficial agreement and feel good about it. It's a move in the right direction. It's a way to move the county forward. On a final note, after reading the agenda and thinking about land use, I'd like to thank the board for hosting recent land use planning conversations across the county. That was good. And I noticed a few things on there. Our county lobbyist is going to be looking for lock and dam money in D.C. I would include you to think about public benefit there. Our lock and dam has been closed for 25 years to public visitation. This was a great eagle watching spot, but for some reason after 9/11 it closed. It's reopened at Starved Rock. It's reopened at Alton. Those communities have big eagle festivals, but here we don't have anything. Maybe our lobbyists could talk about that. Similarly, I noticed that Radnor Road reconstruction is on the agenda. Radnor Road used to be a great way for Peoria County residents to get to the Kickapoo Creek Recreation Area. And this is an area with nice walking paths and camping that's adjacent to the Kickapoo Creek Trail. It would be, or to the Rock Island Trail, it would be great if our agreement could consider how we might rehab that northern
Tracy,
part to
5
include
minutes.
that.
We're at 5 minutes.
Thank you. In general, I just encourage you to think about public benefit, and in every vote, think about how we can benefit the most people for the longest period of time. Thank you.
Next, Seth Uphoff.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Seth Uphoff, and I'm an attorney here in Peoria. I actually started downstairs in the state's attorney's office and worked there for a number of years, and now I'm out in private practice here in town. And I'm here this evening because I am working with the Four Creeks Wind Project. And on behalf of that project, I've been helping to negotiate the road use agreement, the RUA, which is on your agenda for this evening. And I know there's already been some discussions about the project, and everybody has personal feelings about it. And there will be a day to discuss those things after we have a public hearing and go through that process. But tonight, I want to just stay focused on the road use agreement, the RUA, because that's what's on your agenda and that's what's up to be considered. As it relates to that, I just wanted to indicate that this is an agreement that has taken months to get to. There has been a lot of tough negotiations going on. Frankly, your team drives a hard bargain. But after those months of negotiations, we finally reached a position where we could bring to you an agreement that we think can suit the needs of Peoria County. This is the county's agreement. It doesn't address the townships. They'll have separate agreements, but this is just for the county and the county's roads. And I think what this agreement leaves you with is a way to protect your county roads and to protect your traveling public. There are a lot of provisions in here that do that. There's some redundancies in there. And it also provides continuing oversight by the county throughout the course of the project, through construction, through the life of the project, and through decommissioning. So you end up with an agreement that I think covers all of those bases for you and your constituents. On our side, it allows us to take the next step forward with the project and allows us to take another step closer to being able to not only generate electricity for the community, but to also generate hundreds of good paying jobs, some that might go to some of the people who are sitting here in the crowd tonight, in addition to hundreds of millions of dollars of additional revenue for Peoria County and the taxing bodies here locally. So with all that said, I'm sure you'll hear more about this agreement as the night goes on, but I wanted to let you know that we have come to the table, we have negotiated in good faith, and we have brought to you an agreement, and we would ask you to strongly consider it, all the details of it, and then vote to approve it. Thank you.
Next, that would bring us to that would be the end of citizens' remarks, but that would bring us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to put the consent agenda on the floor? Member Salzer and Member Phelan. Would anybody like anything removed? Member Salzer.
Mr. Chairman, would you pull 8.9?
And that would be the road use agreement with Four Creeks LLC to utilize roads under the jurisdiction of Peoria County. For those not seeing what 8.9 is. Would anybody like anything else pulled? Anything else? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Member Daly, (17 ayes). Next would be the item 8.9. Road use agreement with Four Creeks LLC to utilize roads under the jurisdiction of Peoria County. A resolution from the County Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of a road use agreement with Peoria County and Four Creeks to use roads under the jurisdiction of the county to construct and operate a wind energy facility.
Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Member Salzer, second by Member Williams. Member Salzer asked if we had a presentation. Were you speaking, Member Salzer? Sorry.
What did you just ask?
Were you going to explain what we were going to do, or did you want me to?
You can go ahead.
So we had a very informative presentation by our attorney, Andrew Kite, on what the road use agreement entails. And we thought for transparency and public that it would be very good to go over for the whole board to understand that as well. So that is why the infrastructure committee asked for that to be pulled. So Andrew from Heil Royster will, who has been our attorney for this, will give an explanation of what is in the details of the road use agreement and also probably our process of the ZBA and why we have a road use agreement in place before. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to Andy.
Okay, thanks, Chairman. Andy, my name's Andy Kite. I'm with Heil Royster in Peoria, and we're appointed to your state's attorney's office to help with the road use agreement and also if there's an eventual project that is ultimately applied for. Just so everybody understands this process in general, your zoning ordinance requires that there be a road use agreement in place prior to the wind project being able to apply for a special use permit. That special use permit process requires a public hearing where everybody, a notice is published, notices are sent to adjoining landowners, and then there is a public hearing that takes place that allows anyone who wants to come and provide any information or evidence or even cross-examine witnesses can come and appear. We're not at that stage right now. We're not even close to that stage right now. Right now is the road use agreement only. Again, this agreement only covers the agreement with the county. It does not cover the agreement, or if there is to be one, with the townships. That is a separate agreement that they would have to have. Also, at this juncture, they would have to have that prior to applying for a special use. Even if, and these are all ifs, that special use is approved, they can't even start construction after that. They would have to then come back and get a building permit. So this is a very early process in what is a very long process before anyone is able to build a wind project in the county. That process is relatively similar around the state, with the exception that here in Peoria County, we require that road use agreement prior to allowing them to even apply for a special use permit. With that, I'm here kind of the mouthpiece here to talk about the road use agreement, but there's been a number of people that were involved in negotiating that on behalf of the county. The state's attorney's office, of course, your administrative office, your county engineer, your county finance department, outside engineers, third-party engineers that regularly are involved with wind projects, and your zoning department all have been involved with negotiating the agreement from the beginning, which has been a relatively long process. It's been probably 8 to 9 months of having a large number of meetings with the developer about what their proposals are. I'm not going to go through every aspect that is in the road use agreement because we won't get out of here tonight. I'm going to talk about sort of the nuts and bolts of what a road use agreement ultimately, the goals of it are, and what ultimately we aim to achieve with a road use agreement. So there's really two aspects to a road use agreement. One is the county's control of roads within its jurisdiction. So this agreement covers, of course, county roads, but we want to make sure that we are still controlling the roads during that construction process. In other words, we don't just turn over the roads to the developer and let them do whatever they want. And then the second part of that is financial assurances being held in place so that if for some reason during that construction phase of the project, the developer folds for some reason or doesn't do the construction work or maintenance work they're supposed to do, we, the county, can capture funds so that we, the county, can then go finish whatever work needs to be done on the roads if they're left in a state of disrepair, or perform any maintenance that needs to be done, or pay any fines that need to be done. So there's really two things that go on within the concept of a road use agreement. Number one, we want to control our roads during the construction phase, even the pre-construction phase. And then number two, we want to make sure that there are financial assurances in place for the county in the event that there is some event that requires us to pull funds from the developer and then fix or construct roads on our own to get them back to where they're supposed to be or maintain them during the construction process. So with that, I'm going to talk about those two things, those two concepts in a little bit more detail. And of course, if you have questions to go along, just interrupt me. But when it comes to the control of our roads, there's a number of things that we retain. So first and foremost, whenever a developer is proposing construction that may take place on our roads or construction that may impact our roads, the very first part of that is we want to make sure, the county wants to make sure that whatever design plans that are provided from the developer, our county engineer approves them. So any design that they want to perform or construction work they want to perform on our local roads, they have to provide designs to our county engineer. Our county engineer has a third-party engineer that is also involved in that process. They review them and make sure they are in accordance with their standards before they do any of that work. During the work process of doing any improvements to local roads that have to take place, they also monitor that construction essentially daily to make sure that the work is being done within the means and methods that the county requires. Part of that structure allows our county within the road use agreement to issue things like a stop work order if they're not performing the work correctly. The county can close a road to construction traffic if they have to. The county can issue fines. They can issue penalties to the developer. And one of the aspects of the road use agreement is if we issue a fine or penalty to the developer that then is not paid by the developer, they have to pay those funds into an escrow account. They don't just walk off and say, we're going to refuse to pay it and then require us to go chase them around town to get it. They have to pay the funds into an escrow account until it's resolved by a third party. In terms of the financial assurance, well, let me back up. In terms of the control of local roads during construction, I'll point out a couple things just so everybody understands. The allowance of a road use agreement does not allow the developer the exclusive use of the roads, of course. The roads remain public roads. Part of this requires that they yield their traffic to a number of types of traffic that would take precedence over the local roads. So, for example, agricultural-based traffic takes precedence over wind farm traffic. School bus traffic takes precedence. Mail, funeral processions, school traffic, those things all take precedence over any wind farm traffic that may occur. All right. I mentioned financial assurance, and I'm going to talk briefly about the financial assurance. So whenever a project like this comes into a community, we, the county, want to make sure that the public funds don't have to get used to do any maintenance of the road or any improvements to the road or any reconstruction of a road or maintenance to that road after the construction's done. So part of that requires the developer to post a financial assurance to the county's benefit to be utilized in the event that the county is not satisfied with the work that they've done, and then the county can pull that financial assurance. And I'm just going to use hypothetical numbers just for discussion purposes only, but what happens at the outset is their engineer has to provide an estimated cost of repairs. That's provided to the county. The county's engineer reviews those estimated cost of repairs to make sure they're correct. So a third-party engineer reviews those estimated cost of repairs to make sure that their estimates are correct. Typically, there's a lot of back and forth that goes back and forth to make sure that those estimates are correct from the county side. That then sets the amount of what the financial assurance might be. But it does so in a way that ensures that the county has enough funds. So in this particular road use agreement, the estimated cost of repairs to the road is multiplied by 1.5 or 150%. And then that amount has to be placed in a letter of credit to the county's benefit so that the county, in the event the project somehow walks away or does not perform the work they're supposed to do in maintenance, the county can claim those funds if they need to and do the work themselves. The financial assurance is really two different forms of financial assurance here. One is a letter of credit, and then the other portion is an escrow. The escrow account has to be initially funded at $1.5 million. We initially, if there is an issue that we have to take funds from, we take that from the escrow account. It's easier for us to do it. We access it quicker. It's a much more beneficial for us to be able to take those directly from the escrow account. However, there's an evergreen clause in the escrow account, which means If the funds within the escrow account, so if we have to draw funds from that escrow account over time for some reason, and those drop below 750,000, half of the escrow amount, they have to reimburse back up to 1.5 million during the course of that construction period. So at no point in time will the escrow account get to zero. Because what happens is if we have to take funds from that escrow account and it drops below 750, they have to re-up it back to 1.5 million. And then finally, I'm just going to touch on one aspect of the agreement is it does allow for the county to have flexibility. So if there is at some point in time an additional road that has to be added, or there has to be additional discussions related to where construction traffic might be, the county has the flexibility then to add additional roads within the concept of this road use agreement. Another aspect is that the agreement itself, if there is a dispute, if there is some sort of ambiguity, and we end up fighting about what that is, and we end up going to court and litigating that issue, which would be relatively rare, but if that did happen, there's a clause within the road use agreement that all the interpretations of ambiguity are to be resolved in light most favorable to the county. So even if there is an ambiguity or there's a draw or it's a close call on what that means, the court has to resolve it in the county's favor. With that, I'll take any questions that anybody might have in relation to that road use agreement before you take a vote, but that ends what I was going to talk about.
Questions for Andy? Thank you, Andy. That was thorough. Member Ricker.
Yes, Mr. Kite, thank you for the details. I had a question, and I think you may have received it by email a month or so ago, but looking at the scope of the project, any capital project has a start and an end of useful life. And so if the end of useful life of this project requires the windmills to be removed, do we have any escrow or any money to manage the road agreement at the time of decommissioning and removal? Is there in scope, or where are we at with that?
Yeah, so in decommissioning events on a wind project or any other type of project really fall into two different phases. So one is you have a planned decommissioning event, meaning the project gets to the end of its useful life. The project developer is still around. The process in the normal course would be then they have to come and do the decommissioning and deconstruct the project and remove it. That, of course, has impacts to the local roads. In the provision here, they have to notify us within 180 days of when that might occur and then sit down and negotiate a new road use agreement in 30 years from now. The other type of decommissioning could be an unplanned decommissioning, whereas the project stops operating, they're no longer paying taxes, they're no longer paying their landowners. At that point, the county can step in and perform decommissioning on their own, or a landowner can perform that decommissioning. But typically, the thought process is that the county would capture funds through decommissioning agreement that then would require them or allow the county to then go hire somebody to remove the project out. One of the requirements, if the project were to be approved, and again, that is if the project were to be approved and come back and get a building permit and construct, before they would be able to get a building permit, they would have to have a decommissioning agreement with the county. It's a standard agreement on essentially every wind project, every solar project, every large development project, is they have to have a decommissioning agreement with the county. We strongly prefer to have any road impact fee or decommissioning funds held within the decommissioning financial assurance as opposed to the road use agreement assurance. And there's a reason for that. The very first reason is we revisit the decommissioning agreements about every 5 years. So there's an interval to revisit those decommissioning agreements that updates the cost estimates on a periodic basis. Because if we tried to do that today, it would be almost impossible to come up with what that dollar figure should be 30 years from now, or 15 or 20. So we want those dollars to be refreshed through our third-party engineer's review of that so that we make sure that we don't get caught short on a decommissioning event. Now, to date, at least, there has not been a wind farm that has been involuntarily decommissioned in Illinois, at least that I'm aware of. but we make sure that that is in place in the event that were to occur. And so we want even the road use type impacts of decommissioning to be held in the decommissioning agreement.
That answer the question, Member Ricker?
Yes, it did. I guess for clarity, then any escrow or would be part of the decommissioning terms and agreement. And as I think I heard you, any cost for road use at that time would be tied into the decommissioning agreement.
Yep, correct.
Okay, thank you. I want to protect the future citizens or board members so we don't throw the can down the road saying we forgot about that, because every project has an end date somewhere. And not trying to force an end date, but we have to be real and understand that, and there's a cost. So I don't want future boards to question why we didn't think of it. But thank you for the details.
Member Alsasser, did you have your hand up?
Yes, Andy, you mentioned that the Peoria County requires the road use agreement ahead of the special use permit. That's not common, though, is it? Didn't you mention that it's usually in other counties, or throughout the United States, they lump them all together, or they do the special use permit first, or?
Yeah, it takes typically the road use agreement is a condition of approval for the building permit. So what happens is the special use permit public hearing phase goes through, county board votes. If they approve it, then before the developer can get a building permit, one of the conditions is they have a road use agreement in place before the building permit is issued. Peoria County has a stage where it happens before the special use permit phase, which is okay. And in fact, it's been beneficial to the county to have it that way. I think there are a handful of counties that have it that way, where it's staged at the special use permit. They have to have it before the special use can be applied for. But the norm and the majority is most counties stage it to the building permit phase.
Is it
Brian? So that history-wise, as chair of land use, and if Member Rosenbaum was here, I think he could add to it. It's been a long-standing practice of Peoria County to require those type of agreements prior to any type of building permit, where the other places require that. A lot of developers have complained about that, but it has been our long-standing practice to require one, to give a voice to the townships so that they actually there's some conversations that can be had there. And then two, when the case comes to ZBA, it makes for a much more transparent case. A lot of that is already information that it would be asked in a case is there. So the legwork for us is always required up front, where in other counties, if they approve the special use, then it might take a year's worth or longer, 6 months to well over a year to negotiate the road use agreement. We've required all that up front, and that has been that has been our policy. It's not required. It is just something that we have chosen to do here in Peoria County. And a lot of comments from the board has been that is a good practice, and we will continue that practice.
Okay. And then with regard to the 4 townships, so they will come up with an agreement on each of their specific townships, and then they will vote on it at the township.
They vote,
right?
Yeah, they would vote on that at the township level.
Yeah.
So the 4 townships essentially are negotiating together, as I understand.
Oh, they are 4 together. Okay.
That's how I understand it. They've been waiting for the county to approve theirs before they have some red line or further discussion with the developer about it. They have had some discussions, but I think they're just at this juncture waiting for the county.
I would have felt more comfortable if the whole thing would have been simultaneous, if they had agreed on theirs and then we had agreed on ours at the same time. But that's fine.
There's usually some staging to it, just in terms of when the approvals happen. And probably half of them on a smaller scale project, you typically would see 1 or 2 townships on the same road use agreement with the county. But this one's kind of spread out. It's a larger area.
And then my last comment is on the warranty period. I've been around county and township roads my entire life, and I don't feel comfortable as far as the length of it. I think it should be longer than that.
Okay.
So I don't feel like it protects us enough.
Okay. Understood.
Member Phelan?
Indy, if I heard you right when you were answering Member Ricker's question about what a decommissioning of this project could look like, I think you mentioned that the agreement would be revisited on a regular basis, maybe every 5 years. Does the contract in front of us tonight have a circumstance where it would be revisited for any reason?
Yeah, it can. So a couple different ways we might come back to this agreement. One would be if there's any sort of substantial change in sort of layout of the project. So if they have to rearrange where turbines might be, or if they have to, if we have to take more road on. So the townships, of course, are in the process of their negotiation, and if there's any further roads that have to come to the county, this allows that flexibility. We would then force that issue or that clause to force them to have a further discussion about certain aspects of the road use agreement, particularly the financial assurance and the amount that's supposed to be involved. The other aspect is an extraordinary event clause. So if there is a situation where, let's say, a turbine catches on fire, for example, and they have to come in and remove that turbine out 15 years from now, they have to come back to us. You wouldn't necessarily revisit this agreement, but it requires them to come back to us and negotiate a new road use agreement for that specific issue. And that could be done, relatively easily at that point. But yeah, there's various events that could occur where we sit down and talk about those issues.
If we were to approve this agreement tonight, and there's an extraordinary event that requires us to create some sort of another agreement, what happens in the event that we can't come to some sort of an agreement? And I know that's sort of a unique circumstance, but just curious.
Yeah, I'd be a little surprised if that, like an extraordinary event occurred, we couldn't come to an agreement. But probably a more appropriate example is if they're getting to the point of decommissioning, for example, and they have to come back, and what would happen if we couldn't get to an agreement at that point. Typically, if you're at loggerheads about a particular issue or how something is supposed to be done, either within the confines of this or a new agreement, typically that is submitted to a third-party engineer for review, and a third-party engineer then essentially resolves that issue. If you absolutely couldn't come to an agreement, you might have to have some sort of litigation about it, but that would be extraordinarily rare in this type of situation, because typically you submit it to a third-party engineer, not associated with either party, and there's provisions for that, and that third-party engineer reviews it and resolves the issue.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions around the horseshoe? Okay, Andy, just for one final sake for just the steps of the process so that everybody is clear that this is road use agreement. Still townships need to have a road use agreement. Then they would have to apply for a building permit. Then they would have to be reviewed for special use, special use. Ahead of myself there. And then a building permit. So this is, by our requirement, the first stage of many stages of this project. It is not pro-wind, anti-wind vote tonight. This is our ordinance requiring a road use agreement.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that, Chairman, is because of the staging of it, we included a clause that entering into the road use agreement has no guarantee, or there are no guarantees related to whether or not a special use would be granted or a building permit would be provided. So it's expressly only for the provision of protecting the county roads and ensuring we have sufficient financial assurance. So we expressly wrote into the agreement that this has no guarantees associated with it. So, just for clarity.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Member Salzer, you can just tell me and I can put it on for you. Okay. Sixteen ayes and 1 nay, with Member Elsesser voting nay. Next is zoning ordinances and resolutions.
So we're going to move it a little bit out of order, which we can do, but we will move the public defender appropriation up to basically the first vote since we do have public defender in attendance. Is there a motion for, oops, sorry, I'll let you read it.
Item 9.4, Public Defender Appropriation. A resolution from your Public Safety and Justice Committee recommending an appropriation of funds in the amount of $107,385.45 to the Public Defender FY 2025 budget and a rollover to the FY 2026 budget.
Member Allison and Member Phelan. Is there questions or comments? Member Allison?
Since we have the public defender here, it'd be great if he could explain a little background quickly.
Okay, my name is Kristen Collins. I am the office manager for the Public Defender's Office. And before you is an agenda briefing requesting an appropriation of $107,000 that we received from the AOIC last September. It's the third time we've received this allotment. It's in regards to the implementation of the Safety Act. These funds are to be used for the Public Defender's Office only, and we had a similar agenda briefing last year in resolution. We received the funds from the state in the state's fiscal year, which runs from July to June. And so we usually get the money in September or so, and we just weren't able to spend the money in 2025. So we're asking for the rollover to the for the funds to be rolled over from the 2025 to 2026, and we will spend the money by the end of the state's fiscal year, which is June 30th of 2026. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Seventeen ayes. Now we'll go back to item 9.1. Zoning case number ZBA 2026-0004. Petition of James and Heidi Golden. A rezoning request from A1 agricultural preservation to A2 agriculture. The petitioner proposes to rezone 14.76 acres in order to operate a landscape contractor business at this location.
Is there a motion to put this on the floor? Member Ruland and Member McKeon. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Seventeen ayes. Item 9.2, zoning case number ZBA 2026-0005, petition of James and Heidi Golden, a special use request from section 20-5.2.2.2.e of the Unified Development Ordinance, which allows for landscape contractors provided that the minimum lot size is 2 acres. No retail sales are permitted, and the business shall not be located in a recorded subdivision. The petitioner proposes to operate a landscape contractor business in the A2 agriculture zoning district.
Member Ruin and Member Windish. Questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Seventeen ayes. Item 9.3, FY 2025 additional appropriations and FY 2025 rollover and additional appropriations to FY 2026, minus items U and R. A resolution from your Finance, Audit, and Legislative Affairs Committee recommending approval of FY 2025 supplemental appropriations and FY 2026 supplemental appropriations in multiple funds.
So, correct, Megan, correct me if I'm wrong. So if you, as you see, 9.3, 9.31, 9.32, and 9.3 and 9.3.1 are basically the same thing. It is way it is on for our voting software. So if there's any clarification, moved by Member Williams, seconded by Member Daly. Is there questions or comments? Member Ricker.
I guess on behalf of trying to be transparent, I know the last couple of years, this encumbrance rollover, which was a thing of the past and the practice of rolling over encumbered expenses from the prior fiscal year to the current fiscal year in order to finish contracts, agreements that we put in place has been a practice for many, many years. The addition of appropriations, in my mind, is a budget amendment item. And so I'm not sure how we got to this situation the last 2 years, and this is the third year of adding budget amendments. But my ask from a board perspective is budget amendments should be transparent. We should go through the appropriate committees just as we do when we do budgets, and then bring it to the full board to show the budget amendment to the public, and also we as a board understand. I won't ask tonight, but in committee, I asked our CFO to walk through every line item and identify which one is a true encumbrance rollover and which one is a budget amendment. I don't remember the exact count on each, but there were quite a few budget amendment items or appropriations in this one, probably almost as many as there were rollovers. So my ask going forward is we need to separate those to be transparent. So I put that out there. We can have more discussion if anyone else has any questions about that.
Thank you, Member Ricker. Other comments? Member Williams?
CFO McCord has taken care of that, so they're divided out.
Just for everybody, just repeat what you said to Steve so everybody can hear.
I said going forward, they're going to be divided.
So it'll still be in the same resolution, it will just be divided to show that. Okay.
And again, my ask was to run budget amendments through the budget amendment process that we have at this board, to run it through the respective committee for each budget amendment. So if there's 2 budget amendments under public safety and justice, that committee would review those amendments and then bring forward to the full board. I still don't agree with putting it in one big wrapped up resolution. I spoke with another board member earlier today that says it's, it's almost like you're doing a huge bill with a lot of things in it. I'm not a fan of doing a huge bill with a lot of things in it. I'd rather be more transparent and follow our process. So again, I ask to keep them separate, not in one big motion.
Yep, I think Member Williams and Member Daly always been open to listening, and being that they're chair and vice chair of finance, that it would be a conversation for the finance committee to have that. And also I would encourage, if certain chairs of committees have an opinion on it, for them to express as committee chairs back to Member Williams and Member Daly. Member Alsasser?
Well, I had it on my agenda, but to me, if you go back, then you lose the right to vote. So I just finally got it pulled up. So is the $400,000 of consulting fees in this one or in the next one?
That's a separate on the different amendments.
Okay. Okay, because I finally got it pulled up because now you used to be able to just.
That would be item U, and I believe item R is the art project.
Okay. Used to be.
So any other comments on 9.3? These are budget amendments which require 2/3. All right, seeing none, please cast your vote.
Sixteen ayes and 1 nay, with Member Ricker voting nay. Next is item 9.32, the approval of item U.
Member Williams, Member Daley. Member Williams.
I've asked Scott to prepare some remarks on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Williams. You had asked me offline just to summarize some prior year expenses that come out of this line. And Heather pulled data from FY24 and FY25, and I'm not going to run through every single thing charged to this line item, but just to highlight some things that that do get charged to this line items. Most of these are one time that maybe were not planned for when the budget was adopted, but some of them are recurring items. So in FY24, there were some initial expenditures tied back to the bicentennial. There were expenditures related to the Smart Mobility Lab, which is a match for a grant that we have with the State Department of Transportation. FY24 was the final year that we used and paid for a contract for minority business workforce compliance on large construction projects. We've now brought that in-house, but in prior years, those contracts were paid from this account. Our state and federal lobbyists are paid from this account, so that's a recurring type of an expense. In FY24, we also had the costs associated with the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the HHS building. Additionally, any costs tied to a fee study that we've done. So in FY24, we did a fee study. FY25, again, there was some bicentennial related expenditures. In both years, we, as I've talked about in both my self-evaluation and in other communications to the board, we use for our leadership team a variety of resources such as trainings and coaching. Those dollars are paid for, or those expenses are paid for from this line. And then, again, there were in FY25, there were some economic development dollars that were attributed to this line, and then some financial services as well that were not related to the fee study, but other financial service related charges that were incurred. So very high level. That's kind of a summary of over the last 2 years, the types of dollars that are things that are expended out of this fund, or this line rather. Some of them are recurring, some of them are not recurring. As an example, if the board has a mid-year initiative that you want to undertake that we did not anticipate nor budget for, those things are typically paid for out of this line. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. Member Williams?
Thank you. So in our conversation, I had not supported this as a rollover. However, in discussions with you and Scott, I am going to support this, but I want us to be very aware of how we spend this. Again, the focus for myself and Member Daly as my vice chair is funds for the jail. So we are really trying to be aware of what we spend.
Thank you, Member Williams. Member Ricker.
I guess why was this omitted from the 2026 budget in the process, since we already knew we had reoccurring expenses and it's been something we've done annually?
So the reoccurring related expenses are included. Although through the budget process and part of balancing the general fund budget, this line was reduced in the FY26 budget between what actually was requested and what was recommended and eventually appropriated by the board. Heather, I'm sure, has the number. I do not have it in front of me, but if memory serves, historically not the amended, but the adopted budget number is somewhere between 400 and 500,000, and for FY26, the appropriated amount is, I think, between 250 or around $250,000. So, as we tried to look at areas where we could cut expenditures to balance the budget, this is one area where we chose to do that.
Okay, I guess my comment around it was we made a conscious decision to reduce this to balance the budget. Now we're coming back 3 months later asking to add it. My ask would be, if we have a line of sight for a project that needs consulting, that would be put on the table and then we would amend the budget at that time instead of amending it with unless you've got a project that you would like to present. I'm not aware of any significant project that this additional funds would be applied to. So at this point, I'm a no vote. I'd rather vote on a specific project and make that amendment when that comes in. So I'll ask, is there a specific project at this point?
So Member Ricker, there is not a specific project. This is basically accounting where we are parking the money in a line item, whether it be for, I know the conversation had been around for the jail. So whether we reserve it for that or we reserve it forever, this is where we're parking it in a line item, these funds for the time being. If an event would come, a contract, this is not giving staff or anybody, committee or one member carte blanche to do what they want with that. That would still have to come to this board for voting approval on that. So I know there will be members that will watch very closely where this money is, because we will be starting budget processes again very soon as we talk through that. This was purely accounting to put that in there with potential some projects maybe, or where in the future here, but the board will have to vote to spend this money. So this is not dumping money in there and that we're just going to go spend it in this year. Most likely, most of it will get put into next year's budget and not spent. So it's purely an accounting thing at this point. Correct, Administrator?
That's correct. And Heather's just sending numbers. So the spend, not the appropriation authority, but the spend in FY25 was $621,000. And the FY26 appropriation is $228,000. So, significant difference from what we actually spend historically to what was appropriated. And again, that was done to try and balance the budget. And you are correct, Chairman. There is no specific project that is queued up at this point in time.
Other questions? Good questions. Seeing none. Oh, Member Alsasser.
So she was explaining to me that on the agenda, these 4 different resolutions are not separated out, so that's why I was confused. So we're voting on number 9.31. So what is all that?
No, we're voting on 9.32, the approval of item U, which is the $400,000 into the administration's budget
for consulting fees.
Consulting, board fees, board whatever, board approvals.
Okay, I've always, throughout my time on the county board, I've always voted against consultants because they've done nothing but cost us money over the years. And so I'll be voting against this.
Thank you, Member Alsasser. Member Phelan?
I intend to support this tonight, but my only comment is as we sit through the budget process, we talk about transparency and push departments and electeds to budget in a way that's transparent to the community. I would ask that administration thinks about that the next time that we go to put a bunch of money into this account.
Other questions? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Fourteen ayes and 3 nays, with members Daley, Elsesser, and Ricker voting nay. Item 9.3.3 is approval of item R as amended.
Member Williams? Member Daley? Member Williams?
We had a lot of discussion about this in our finance meeting, and what this does is it moves $100,000. We were initially, this is for our art project for the health building. We were initially going to take that out of capital, but at this, as amended, is we're actually going to be taking this out of the health department reserves.
Questions? Comments? Member Alsasser?
With all the money this county's received from the federal government the last several years, I don't think we need to be taking any money out of reserves anytime. I mean, reserves are for a rainy day, and the only reason why we've done so well is because the assessed valuation just keeps going up, and we're collecting more money. So I can't support anything where we're taking money out of the reserves. And I know that they've moved the money out of this into the health department, but that's just, it's still taxpayer money. I mean, it makes it look better for this, but it's still taxpayer money from the health department.
Member Williams?
So there was money left over in the budget that went back for the health building. It was $124,000. So what we're doing is it was put back into the reserves, and it's just going to be taken back out.
Okay.
Other comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Fourteen ayes and 3 nays, with members Daley, Elsesser, and Ricker voting nay. Moving to item 9.5, Mossville Road resurfacing construction engineering agreement. A resolution from your infrastructure committee recommending approval of a construction engineering service agreement with Millennial Professional Services for the resurfacing of Mossville Road in the amount of $69,128.
Member Salzer and Member Couch. Any questions, comments? We just had this committee beforehand. Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Seventeen ayes. Our final item is item 9.6. Kickapoo Edwards Road Civil Defense Road Construction Engineering Agreement. A resolution from your Infrastructure Committee recommending approval of a construction engineering services agreement with Hutchinson Engineering in the amount of $124,708 for the reconstruction of Kickapoo Edwards Road and Civil Defense Road.
Salzer and Member Couch. Sorry, Member Duncan. I'm trying to do chairs and vice chairs. Any questions, comments? So if you haven't been out there lately, there is earth moving. We're seeing progress on that development. So hopefully here soon we'll see some construction. But I do want on these two agreements. I know many of you did not meet Josie, but we had hired Josie to from another municipality to be our civil engineer for the highway department, and I think it shows the value of when we can actually have our own employees. She did multiple roads last year. We have other team members that do roads, but these contracts are in place because we lost her to another government, and we should strive to. That's a good thing because that means the employees are good employees, and other people recognize that and want them. So, kudos to her for moving on to her next employment. But it does show how competitive engineering market is there, and that the value of some of us having in-house engineering. So, congratulations to Josie for her next steps. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, please cast your vote.
Seventeen ayes. Miscellaneous and announcements.
We'll start on Member McKeon's side. Who? Man. Member Daley.
I just want to extend a hearty congratulations to the coroner's office for their accreditation with the International Association of Coroners and Medical Examiners, and there are only 4 that have this in Illinois and only 55 in the U.S. Pretty exciting.
Member Blair. Member Allison. Member Ricker.
Yeah, I would like to just acknowledge the work of the Highway Department and Mossville Road, which is one of the resolutions that we approved for engineering, is in my district. I'll be glad when that gets repaired and addressed, so I'll take a few less phone calls, and I'm a regular traveler of it. It's a great road, just it was time for improvements. So thank you to the Highway Department.
Member Salzer. Member Elsesser.
I would just wholeheartedly agree, Member Ricker. Amy and her crew do a great job out there, and I see it every day.
Thank you, Member Elsesser. I guess I would ask staff in the back room, was there a bingo back there, or what was the clapping for? Inside joke, but the just an update. So seal coat bids came in last week. We got multiple seal coat bids in, and one of the commitments that since we do have 2 township road commissioners on here, is one of the commitments is staff has always done a good job with communication, but Shauna and her team and Scott had in the past, but we met with them and we've been committed to meet with them often and hear their concerns and comments. So thanks for Member Kelch and for Amy and her team for setting that up. So Administrator Jenny. Okay, so seeing none, meeting adjourned.